Gather round, boys and girls. It's time for Kev to tell you a story about how Lollujo Championship Wrestling came to exist. Basically, Kev won the lottery. Big sum of money. Most of it has been set aside for a project that will become apparent on this channel later in the week. But he was allowed, I don't know why I'm speaking in the third person, I was allowed to take $1 million, go to America, and spend a year trying to run a wrestling promotion from nothing. So that's exactly what we've done. We've set up Lollujo Championship Wrestling. I've got $1 million sat there in the bank, which is a sizable sum of money for setting up a wrestling promotion with. We've got ourselves a TV deal with Destination America, where we're going to be having simulcasts on there and on this very YouTube channel every Tuesday evening. And that's what you're going to get. Every Tuesday on this channel, a new episode of LCW Live. And then once a month, we're going to have our Sunday pay-per-views. So settle yourself down, maybe make yourself a cup of coffee, a little bit of popcorn, and enjoy the very first episode of LCW Live. Hello and welcome to episode 1 of LCW Live. I'm Kev and I'm going to be your conduit into this world where, as owner of the promotion and commentator, I'm going to be telling you all about what's happening over here in LCW, where my representative, my general manager, one Kurt Angle, is going to take the microphone and introduce you to himself and to this new promotion. So Kurt comes out. He's very happy that on this particular version of the Total Extreme Wrestling 2016 database that Kev managed to download, he hadn't yet re-signed with WWE. So he was available. We snapped him up. He's my general manager. Someone else can look after WWE. So he comes out, debuts, re-debuts if you like, his Olympic medalist gimmick. He has a great initial reaction, does a masterful job of improvising his interactions with the crowd. The commentary could have been better. Well, that's Joey Styles and Taz that are on commentary, so hopefully they can work on that as time goes on. But most importantly, Kurt Angle, because he's Kurt Angle, comes out, gets us a B+ in front of 3,554 people at the San Jose Municipal Stadium, introduces himself as general manager, and welcomes you along to the new wrestling promotion, LCW. We've got a year before the money runs out, and we are going to compete with the WWE. So, first order of business, we have a match, because we have a lot of vacant titles, and vacant titles mean qualification for championship tournaments. We've got our first pay-per-view coming up at the end of the month, and at that pay-per-view we will be competing for new LCW World Champion, Tag Team Champions. We've got a television title as well, and a women's division. But first, in this first episode of LCW Live, we're going to be having the qualifiers for folk to get into the LCW World Championship Tournament, which kicks off next week. So first match, Jack Swagger against Ethan Carter III, and Jack Swagger is victorious with the Patriot Lock. He debuts his legitimate athlete gimmick. He's come in as a babyface. I prefer him as a heel, but did you know there's very few babyface free agents out there? So, you know, he can do that job as well. Ethan Carter III, full disclosure, I don't watch TNA, so I don't really know anything about him, but he's come out as an egomaniac, because apparently that's what he does. He got a great initial reaction. The crowd, the match excited the crowd. Both wrestlers getting a C-. We get a C rating overall for the match, and Jack Swagger moves on into the proper LCW World Title Championship Tournament, which begins next week. And then Kurt Angle is just hovering around the back, and along comes Nick Jackson, one of the Young Bucks, saying, Kurt, I've got a problem. My brother has picked up an injury, because curses if Matt Jackson hasn't picked up an injury. The Young Bucks are supposed to be facing the Briscoe brothers later on as they qualify for the tag team title tournament, but obviously Matt can't wrestle, his legs exploded. Nick is asking, can the Young Bucks continue to be represented in the tournament if he can find an alternative tag team partner? Kurt says, you know what? That's fine by me. And we get a C+ for the segment, because anything Kurt Angle touches gets at least a C. Fingers crossed, because he's in a lot of these segments. Nick Jackson performed pretty poorly, which is a bit of a problem. But, you know, we'll work on that. I think if we can build up... We've got quite a strong tag division here at LCW, and the Young Bucks need to be part of that. So let's hope he can get a little bit better with whoever his mystery tag team partner is, which we'll find out about a little bit later in the show. And then we move into the next qualifier for the World Title Tournament. This time we've got James Storm against Mr. Kennedy. Yeah, that's right. We're using the WWE gimmick. What are they going to do? Sue me? It's a game, for goodness sake. I'm using the names I'm most familiar with. So it's James Storm versus Mr. Kennedy. And Mr. Kennedy does defeat James Storm. And, oh dear, James Storm's troublemaker weasel gimmick. I didn't set that. I need to fix that. That got an awful initial rating. But luckily, Mr. Kennedy comes out using his proper Kennedy. I could even get the microphone up there and do it. It gets a very good gimmick on there. James Storm has broken his toe in that match as well, which is just as well he lost. He only got a D+, but he was wrestling with a broken toe. Kennedy comes out with a C-. We get a C- for the match overall. Not a disaster. Kennedy moves on into the World Title Tournament proper, and I don't know if that means James Storm is going to be out for any amount of time. It doesn't say. We'll check that, and if he's out, he's out. It's not like we had any real plans for him after this first match. And then we have an angle with a confrontation between Drew Galloway and Evan Bourne backstage, where they just, you know, they're hanging out. They decide to have a big scrap. They're both a bit upset that neither of them are in the world title qualifiers. They're going to have to settle themselves for a place in the television title tournament, which will start next week. But they both feel like they deserve to be in the qualifiers at the very least, but the other is telling them that they didn't, so they end up having a bit of a scrap. Drew Galloway is debuting his cocky gimmick, which is below average, and Evan Bourne with the show stealer gimmick, above average. We only get a D+ on the segment as a whole. Neither of them are particularly well rated in the game, so I didn't expect a massive rating for it. We do need to work on building both of them, because I like both of these guys, and I don't like the fact that neither of them were considered big enough draws to be worth putting in the World Title Tournament. But so be it. We'll stick the TV title on one of them, maybe, and see where they end up. And then we move into our tag team title tournament qualifier, and Nick Jackson introduces his Bullet Club colleague Adam Cole, who has been, and this popped up in game, has been hanging out with Matt Jackson backstage while he's been recuperating. So they're becoming even closer buddies anyway. So Adam Cole comes out and takes the place of Matt Jackson as part of the Young Bucks. But it's not enough, and the Briscoe brothers do defeat the Young Bucks to advance in the tag team title tournament. I don't know who their opponents are next week, because we're not having the second of the tag team title qualifiers until next week. Who knows who the other tag teams might be? Let us know down in the comments who you think they might be. But the Briscoe brothers move through to the final and will be competing for the tag team titles at the pay-per-view at the end of the month. We just need to find them an opponent now, and then figure out what we're going to do here if Matt Jackson's out for a little while. We get a C for the gimmick overall. The star performer was Jay Briscoe, Mark Briscoe with a D, and both Adam Cole and Nick Jackson are pretty disappointing, but we do kick off our tag division storyline with this match. Kurt's back. And we get an A, because not only is it Kurt Angle, but he's announcing a massive signing for LCW. We have a contract signing in the middle of the ring. Batista has arrived in LCW. Kurt working the crowd well. The commentary's letting us down a little bit again, but two massive stars, Kurt Angle, Batista, in the ring together. We get an A rating. Goodness me, am I glad I booked Kurt Angle as my general manager rather than myself, because I don't think me and Batista would have got an A the way Kurt Angle and Batista has. And then we have two pesky rascals, Alberto Del Rio and Cody Rhodes, rush out to the ring, beat the snot out of Batista, and just when it looks like Batista can't recover any further, out comes his old buddy Rey Mysterio to chase away those pesky heels. Yeah, I realise I've got Batista being rescued by Rey Mysterio, but that works fine with me. I don't, you know, Batista he's the big star who needs the contract signing. Del Rio and Cody Rhodes both feel like they should be the big star who gets their own special signing, and neither of them did. This is how they're making their debuts. And Mysterio, he's got no ego. He doesn't feel like he needs a contract signing, but he thinks it's rather unacceptable that those two are spoiling Batista's big moment. So he's going to come out, and Mysterio and Batista clear the ring. Rhodes and Del Rio sent packing, and we debut a whole load of gimmicks. So Rey Mysterio, his fan favourite gimmick, getting an average rating. Batista's badass gimmick, above average. Del Rio's snob gimmick is awful. Might need to work on that. And Cody Rhodes with his cocky evolution gimmick, he gets an above average rating, which is fine. Batista came across well. Cody Rhodes was poor in that segment. Brandy Rhodes apparently rushed out with Cody because she's his manager, and felt the need to come and rush in on a beatdown despite her being a babyface. But got an above average rating, so did better than hubby. And it kicks off our world title storyline, because these four are obviously four big stars who are going to form part of our world title picture when the proper world title tournament kicks off next week. I'm a little bit disappointed that a rating with those four wrestlers in, a segment of those four wrestlers only gets a C rating, but we'll work on that. And, you know, Batista by himself did fine. It's Del Rio and Rhodes who've dragged that down, which is a surprise. I like both of those two. We move on anyway. Kurt Angle sets a tag team match for later on in the show. See, Kurt's come out and can't even rescue it. Kurt Angle comes out, sets a tag team match to main event tonight's episode of LCW Live. It's going to be Batista and Rey Mysterio against Cody Rhodes and Alberto Del Rio. And Kurt's improviser. Kurt Angle, I mean, value for money, definitely from Kurt Angle on this first episode of LCW Live. Yeah, we've already booked that. Yes, we want to continue about creating one because I've already created it. And then we move into another qualifier for the world title tournament. We have Ryback versus Nick Aldis. Ryback defeats Aldis with a silverback attack. I don't know what that is. I've seen Ryback wrestle about twice. But Ryback comes out as a brute and it gets a great initial rating. Aldis comes out as a cocky old school heel. He gets an above average rating. Ryback with a C. Aldis with a D+. We get a C overall. Ryback is into the world title tournament proper. Aldis can go and hang out with Drew Galloway and Evan Bourne, who were probably all nursing James Storm's broken toe from earlier in the show. Wade Barrett pops out and says, ha ha ha, Drew Galloway and Evan Bourne, they were all moaning that they didn't get into the world title tournament. We've already seen the likes of James Storm and Nick Aldis get knocked out of this tournament. I'm in the tournament and I'll be wrestling next week. He debuts his arrogant gimmick. It gets an awful rating, which is, I don't understand that. Wade Barrett is a brilliant arrogant heel. How can that possibly be awful? He's getting better at his gimmick, apparently. He can't get better at his gimmick. He's brilliant at it. We need to fix that, but it gets a C-. It's not a disaster, and he will be part of the world title tournament that starts next week. And then we move into the final qualifier for for the world title tournament match. It's Christopher Daniels against Eddie Edwards, and Daniels beats Edwards with Angel's Wings after 9 minutes and 8 seconds. Edwards gets a very good initial rating for his wrestling machine gimmick. Daniels also gets a very good old school heel reaction for his new gimmick. It's not a new gimmick, his gimmick. Edwards gets a C-. Somehow Daniels only gets a D for in-ring performance. That might just be because he's getting old. We get a C- on the match overall. And Daniels moves forward. He's a Ring of Honor champion, for goodness sake. How's he only getting a D for in-ring performance? And then we've just got a few people hanging out backstage, answering a few questions about who might be in the tag team tournament next week. We've got an ECW reunion backstage. Bubba Ray Dudley, Devon Dudley and Rob Van Dam just hanging out backstage. Bubba debuting his badass gimmick, which gets an awful rating. Devon, same with a blowout. I mean, we've got heel version of the Dudley Boys hanging out with show stealer RVD. RVD gets a good reaction. The Dudleys don't. Perhaps we need to split them up and push Bubba on his own. We obviously can't do that until the tag team tournament is dealt with, though. We get a C for the segment. We've got 3 more big stars in LCW. I'm happy with that. And we'll figure out what to do with them once they're a little bit more settled in. And then we get our main event of the evening. So it's Batista and Rey Mysterio versus Alberto Del Rio and Cody Rhodes. And in the end, Batista defeats Alberto Del Rio with a Batista bomb. Cody Rhodes is the weak link, struggling to keep up. Perhaps he's not cut out to be in this world title picture, which is a real shame. Rey Mysterio getting a B- though, is the star performer. Batista and Del Rio both getting C's. Cody Rhodes definitely the weak link. We get a C+ overall. Our world title storyline advances, and Cody Rhodes might need to be moved down into the television title picture, or maybe we'll find him a tag team partner. All of which ends our first episode of LCW Live. We get a C+ rating overall. Yes, we don't have enough storylines going on. It's our first show. There's a few storylines in there. We've still got the television title division to debut. We've still got the women's division to debut. We've still got the second qualifier for the tag team title tournament. There's lots going on. There's going to be lots coming up next week. You'll get a new episode of LCW next Tuesday and every Tuesday on this channel. And then at the end of the month, we'll have our first pay-per-view where we will crown our first LCW World Champion. And there's lots of new faces to arrive yet as well. That's by no means our entire roster that you've seen tonight. If you've enjoyed that episode, please make sure you pop a like on there for me. I very much welcome feedback down in the comments. I've never tried to start a promotion from scratch on Total Extreme Wrestling before. It might go desperately wrong. I might be throwing all my money away far too quickly. It just generally might be a disaster. But I had loads of fun booking this, and I'm really looking forward to being able to just doing it as weekly episodes. It allows me to get Total Extreme Wrestling back on the channel without the pressure of doing 2 or 3 episodes every week to keep up with Raw, SmackDown and pay-per-views. It's too much. So hopefully this is a nice little bit of common ground until we can bring the WWE Total Extreme Wrestling content back in the summer. But please let me know what you think, both positive and negative feedback. Very, very welcome down in the comments. If you have liked what you've seen and you want to stick around for more, please subscribe to the channel. And thank you very much for watching.